Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Usagi Podjimbo podcast. I'm your host, Mike. With me, as always, is myself and our good friend Usagi Miyamoto Usagi himself in the pages of the comic books. This is an Usagi Yojimbo podcast. We are going through the entire series. If we can make it through the entire series for the first time ever, and I just want to talk about each issue and go through and talk about my thoughts about each particular one and what I think about it and stuff like that. And, give me your feedback as always. We have a Facebook page called Usagi Podjimbo, an Usagi Yojimbo podcast. We're like 35, 36 members strong. If you're new to the podcast, thanks for listening. Go back and listen to all the old episodes to get caught up. You want to get caught up? If you want to help the podcast, share the podcast. That is the best way to help, as well as listen to the podcast itself. But without further ado, let's get into this. We got a good issue for you this time. The Bridge. It's a little horror comic that we got going. Stan Sakai I would say is pretty good at doing horror, especially with the Kappa issue that we read way back towards the beginning of our journey in the Usagi run. But let's get into this. Let's talk about it and let's have some fun and discuss some Usagi Yojimbo. So Usagi is definitely worse for wear. It is storming, raining, cats and dogs, as people like to say. He's like, Gaz, what foul weather we're having. And he starts screaming at the rain and the storm clouds, like, why can't you stop raining on me? And he's like, oh, there's a bridge here. I see some light beyond the bridge, he says. He happens to start crossing the bridge. We see like a little building in the distance, and he starts crossing the bridge. And we see like, I want to say it's like a crack of lightning almost, it seems like. And Usagi draws his sword and swings behind him. Nothing is there. Probably just a shadow, Usagi says. The lightning and thunder are causing him to imagine things. But the storm should pass quickly, apparently. Usagi is drenched. He gets to this end, and he's like soaking wet. He has so much water on him. And he's like, whoo, what a storm we got going on here, May I come in for a while? And they're like, oh, of course you may, Samurai. Sit. I'll bring you some hot tea. One of the innkeepers asks him, but why did you pass all the other inns, and why did you come to the last inn on the stop? And I like this funny little bit. A couple of the people partaking in the food, the customers, one of them's like, maybe he just enjoys getting wet, and the other one's like, he must be part fish. And you see them eating their rice and their food and whatnot, which is kind of funny to see, I gotta be honest. Usagi happens to say he did not pass through the town. He came from the south. And they're like, oh my god, the innkeeper says, oh my god, like you came from the south, you crossed the bridge. And Usagi is very confused, and the innkeeper's like, impossible, you cannot cross the bridge, because apparently there's a demon who inhabits the bridge. And he's like, it appears in a moonless night like this and kills those wayfarers who would cross said bridge. And apparently their son was slain on the bridge by the creature, by the demon. And you see the other residents of this town at this inn, they back up the innkeeper's what he's saying. And they're like, yeah, it's true. There's something supernatural about that bridge. And Usagi says, why can't we just destroy the bridge, and build another bridge? And they're like, oh no, the demon protects the bridge. No flame can fire it. No saw can cut it. No foot can break it, apparently. And that's, they start talking about this bridge, and Usagi is very much like, hey, what's going on here? Are these people a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? And he's like, maybe I should, go find another place to basically, wait out the storm. And he starts to leave, and they're like, oh my god, Samurai! And they go to reach for him, They're like, look at your back, your clothes. They look like they've been raked by giant claws. And we see Usagi's back cut with like these big slash marks down his back. And we cut to the next day. And the next day we see the innkeeper. He's like, Usagi-san, wake up. Usagi's like, oh man, what's going on here? What's all the commotions going on? He's fast asleep, you know? He goes, yes, but we need you and the bridge. Hurry. Two travelers found it as they were crossing this morning. And they're like, so he's like, oh, what could they have found? And he has a shocked look on his face, and he's like, it's I can't believe what this is. I guess I wasn't imagining anything. And we see Usagi go reach for this item, and what we see is a severed hand. Particularly, like a severed hand has a bunch of like warts on it and stuff, and there's like these really long like fingernails, almost like claw-like. And Usagi's like, oh, I must have cut off its hand when I drew my sword. And like some of the guys are like, some of the people in the city, they're like, oh, did you see it? It moved, you know? Oh, that's not possible. It could not have been that, you know? And they're like, oh, what should we do with this, Usagi-san? What should we do? And he's like, summon a priest. We're going to perform an exorcism. And we see it, it'll be a full day before they can travel, but we will go get the priest or the priestess for the exorcism. We will keep it at the inn until the priest arrives. Get me a towel, we'll wrap it up, and they wrap up the hand, and we see Usagi carrying back the hand, and he's like, perhaps now the demon's power will wane a little bit. And we see the people in the town, they're very weary of this hand like staying in their town, to be exact. We cut from that to nightfall, and we see a couple people come into the inn, and the inn is very busy this night. And we see some people coming in. You're like, oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, you can join us. Usagi is sitting there eating what I'm guessing is possibly noodles, maybe some tofu. Who knows what it is? And we see this old woman come in, and she's like, excuse me, samurai. She has like these pointy ears. A little foreshadowing, a little thing. We only see one of her hands in this thing. And she's like, oh, I've heard you found the hand of the demon bridge. Can I see it? Can you show it to me? My husband was slain by this demon. If I see it, that severed hand, it would have helped me tremendously, and that give me a small amount of revenge. And Usagi's like, I don't know if I should show it to you. It could be dangerous. But she starts to begs, and it's like, it's a request. Why can't you acknowledge or give a request from an old woman, And other people are like, yeah, samurai, why do you have to be so heartless? Some of them say. She's like, okay, let me go get it. So Usagi walks off, and you see this woman's face. She's like, oh, thank you, samurai. She's so happy. And so he goes and he gets it. And he's like, here it is. Please be careful. And you see the old woman. She's like, you have my gratitude, samurai. And you see her start to laugh. And this power aura starts to imbue her or come from her. And you see her turn into the bridge demon. And she tries to fight Usagi off with her nub, which is pretty funny. Usagi drops the hand, and the demon is like, my power is greatly reduced off the bridge, but I shall slay you. But first, I must reattach my hand. First, let me reattach my hand, and then I will slay you. But first, my hand is top priority. It's top priority, but we're gonna get through this. Just time out. I feel like the demon's calling a timeout in this aspect. And she opens up the rags that Usagi wrapped the hand in, and we find out that it's a radish, and Usagi has tricked the demon, and Usagi goes to slash and attack the demon, but he accidentally cuts the radish, and we see this really cool fight where like it's almost like The Ring or like Grudge-esque, where the demon's like perched up on the ceiling, and they're like, give me back my hand. Usagi goes to jump in after the demon, and the demon actually grabs Usagi by the leg, which is interesting because the demon is up in the air. So I wonder if it's some kind of trickery that the demon has pulled on Usagi. Usagi ends up getting thrown by the bridge demon, and you see Usagi crash through what looks like a window almost, but I'm guessing it's kind of like maybe some tables. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it looks more like a window. And the demon's like, "My hand, where is it?" You see Usagi reach for something on like the stove, and Usagi's holding this rag up to the stove, and he's like, "Leave, demon, or I'll burn your hand." And the demon's like, "Oh, you're trying to play tricks on me. Don't deceive me again." And Usagi goes, and I like this little detail. I think it's really cool. Usagi actually burns what's wrapped up, and it actually is the demon's hand. You see the demon screech in pain. A flash happens, and the demon actually disappears, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe what happened." Usagi is trying to uh, get his bearings, and the people are asking him, "Oh, how did you know the woman was a demon?" And Usagi was like, "She had no left hand. Of course she was the demon. I mean, come on." Usagi, smartest person in the room. Just saying. Usagi is knocked about, or has been knocked about. You can see that he has some like dirt and probably bruises on him. He's like, we can't afford to wait any longer. Her power will increase if she regains her hand, he says. And this must end tonight, according to what Usagi says. Usagi ends up going off to the bridge, and everybody's like, "Oh, what's going on? What's the commotion?" And Usagi's like, "We're gonna take out this demon," and everybody is basically all for it. They're like, "Yes, we must kill this Hanaya," I believe is what it's called, which is female demon in Japanese. Uh, I have what is yours. Come out, he says, unless you want me to destroy, or unless you want it destroyed, appear before us. And we see this cool panel, this cool 3 panel where there's a little smoke on the bridge, a little more smoke, and the demon appears. The demon silhouette very much kind of reminds me of Jay, uh, the self-proclaimed. What was he like? The self-proclaimed god, or right hand of God, or whatever they called them. I don't remember what he was called. Um, but the demon shows up, and we see them. They have a standoff with all um, the villagers in the background. Usagi ends up trying to barter with the bridge demon, and he says, "It's yours. The hand is yours, with your vow that you will depart this world into the nether realms from which you came." And we see the demon like going like, "Heh heh 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 heh," and Usagi's like, "No tricks, demon." And we end up seeing the villagers. I think this is a trick from the bridge demon. The villagers end up attacking Usagi, and Usagi goes hand to hand with them and actually knocks a bunch of the villagers off of him, like punching him and elbowing them to get him off. And we see the bridge demon, and they're like, "Ha ha ha, samurai! I forced you onto the bridge where my power is the greatest." Because we know the bridge demon ends up attaching itself to the bridge, and it's like there's like its domain. And you see Usagi, like he has his sword drawn. He's like, "Keep back, demon! What did you do to this person?" And they basically like mind controlled them, basically. And we see this cool scene, which is, in my opinion, is very reminiscent to Evil Dead 2, where the severed hand jumps up and grabs Usagi's sword. Usagi is holding it. Usagi has to fight off the demon hand, the severed demon hand, and we see the demon laughing, and the demon lunges and tries to go after Usagi, and actually does get the upper hand on Usagi, and Usagi is down, and we see the demon, and the demon says, your sword is useless, samurai, and all this gust of winds starts to happen. And we see Usagi being wrapped up in all this wind, and the villagers are like, "Whoa, that samurai can't stand a chance against such power." And we see the husband, who is, I believe it's the innkeeper who lost his son. We see him and his wife, and uh, the wife is like, "Oh, husband, we must flee," and the husband just is looking over in horror at what's going on. And Usagi is trying to fight off this one-handed demon in the wind. The demon is very much has the upper hand at fighting Usagi. Usagi is very worse for wear. We're gonna have to say that right now. We see the hand crawling around like Thing from the Addams Family, and the innkeeper ends up running up with a torch, and he basically burns the hand. He's like, I witnessed you murder my son. And you hear in the background, "No, husband, no, but you'll not kill again." And he hits the hand with the fire, and he's like, "Ah!" And Usagi slices off the demon's hand, killing the demon. And we see, they ask, is the nightmare finally over, samurai? And Usagi says, "It would seem so," as we get a death's head, a different death's head, because this one has horns and like fangs, which is a nice little touching like detail we got here. And we see the bridge starts to rumble, and they're like, "Oh, watch out, samurai!" And they run from the bridge, and the bridge crashes down into the water. And Usagi says, "Now it is over. But you have to join together to build a new bridge," Usagi says. "It's a small price to pay for our safety." And they say, "Thank you, Usagi." And that is where our issue ends. I have to say, so I was originally reading through this podcast the colored versions, the re-released stories for Usagi Yojimbo, and I just went into the colored, no, the black and white version, which is the original version, through the collector's edition for Usagi. I thought there would be like more of a disconnect because switching from color to black and white, but there wasn't. I feel like it was a seamless transition. Man, those those details Stansky puts in with the black and white, I love what we got going on. All the like little details with like the speed lines and stuff like that, and like just I just love like the way it looks. Um, I don't want to say like I'm biased because I liked both the color and the black and white version, but man, the black and white version does stand out quite a bit. I don't want to say the colored version hampers it, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna pick favorites. That's like picking your favorite child. I'm just gonna say that right now. Uh, but man, this issue was so good. I'm not a huge fan of horror when it comes to like comics or manga or anime, but I do like live action horror, which is weird. You think I would like both, but it's well in comics. But I love when Stan Sakai does it. Like he did it with the Kappa issue, and now he did it with the Bridge. Like just something about it. He makes these mythological creatures or yokai or whatever you want to call them. You know, urban legends into like something really creepy, and like I don't want to say like they're not like too overpowered that Usagi cannot take care of them, but like they do have somewhat of an advantage. But seeing this like supernatural element weaved lightly into the Usagi series is a really nice touch because it has been for an anthropomorphic um, series about feudal Japan. It's been very grounded for the most part in this series, but I like how he lightly touches on the supernatural, and the way this issue was told was really good, and I got a lot of creepy vibes from it. And I was like, oh my god, is Usagi gonna make it out? And of course, or like, what's gonna happen? Are all these villagers gonna die? You know, what's gonna happen? Is there gonna be some like ultimate sacrifice? Who knows? You know, because we all know consequences. Usually sticking Usagi Yojimbo for the most part. You know, but yeah, whew, man, this issue was so good. Like, I might put it as like maybe top 10. Who knows? Like, I really enjoyed this. Like, there was so much good like built up tension and suspense. Like, I didn't pick up on the first time I read it that like the old lady was like hiding her hand. Like, I just didn't pick up on that at one point. It was a real surprise that she ended up being the bridge demon when I read this. But yeah, not much more I can say about this particular issue, but definitely go check it out. Go give it a read. Let me know what you think of this episode. Let me know what you think of this issue if you've read it or not. Give me feedback. You can do so on any podcast platform of your choice. I'll try to get a hold of it and check it out. And I would love for feedback to be given on the podcast. I know you can do it on Spotify. You can give feedback for each episode on Spotify. If you do so, I'll read it if you want me to on the podcast. We'll do like a new little thing. But thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this particular issue, and we will catch you on the next one. Stay safe and go read some Usagi Yojimbo.